Morning of 0841, Sage Mesa Test Range, New Mexico. The warning light flares, red lost link. An MQ-9 Reaper drifts 2 degrees off the Holloman corridor, enough to push it toward a nearby town. 12 minutes until it crosses over homes and schools. Inside the control room, voices collide, officers arguing over who should take control. Claire Whitfield lays a small silver compass pendant on the console, its engraving clear, even in the glow of alarms, hold true. She asks one question, calm and precise. Did we lock the safety hold pattern yet? Morning heat shimmers across the runways outside, but the control center is cool, alive with the hum of monitors streaming live telemetry. Colonel Mason Reddick, rigid and procedure-driven, stands at the center. His focus is not on opinions, it is on checklists and standards. Beside him, Claire Whitfield, 30 years old, a specialist in electronic warfare and unmanned systems, adjusts her headset. She has studied drone telemetry long enough to stay steady where others rush. The faint glint of the silver compass pendant rests at her collar. Hold true, her father's lesson, her anchor. A piercing alarm cuts through the room. Link quality degraded. Lost link. The Reaper's navigation stutters, drifting as though its GPS were being spoofed. For most, lost link is just a line in a manual. In truth, it is like a driver veering off a highway at full speed. Normally, the autopilot should trigger a safety hold pattern or a return to base loop. But today, the failsafe has slipped. The Reaper's trajectory is slicing toward civilian airspace. Lieutenant Carter Doyle leans forward, impatience sharpening his tone. Hand it to the backup pilot. We're out of time. Major Sarah Whitman, steady and seasoned, shakes her head. Not yet. Lock the safety first. Confirm the hold pattern. Reddick checks the countdown ticking on the main screen. His order is clipped cold, Whitfield. The chair is yours. Do it by the book. Claire slides into the command chair, steadying her breath as her fingers brush the compass once more. Her first moves are measured, deliberate, simple enough that even a viewer can visualize them. Lock the fail-safe, halt the dangerous drift. Split the data streams separate, clean command signals from interference. Reopen limited control, just enough authority to stabilize. On the radar, the MQ-9 edges near the town, just a couple of degrees off course. But at 300 miles per hour, that is the difference between empty desert and thousands of lives in the corridor ahead. A cryptic line flashes across the debug log, test flag nav sim. Active. Claire frowns. That flag should never have been live. Doyle mutters too quickly, his voice strained. It's only a test code. I set it to speed things up. Whitman exchanges a sharp look with Colonel Reddick. The word unauthorized doesn't need to be spoken. It hangs heavy in the air. Claire keeps her tone level, her focus unbroken. When in altitude, at the data table, Specialist Ben Turner calls out numbers without hesitation. Crosswind 18 knots. Altitude 10.5, drifting 2 degrees northeast. Intervention window, 90 seconds. Claire's hands move deliberately, stripping noise from the channel. On the radar, the Reaper's icon wavers, then steadies, circling into a controlled hold pattern, banking away from the town. Turner leans forward, calling the results like a lifeline. Drift down, 1 degree, half a degree. Hold locked. Doyle exhales, a shaky relief escaping. Fine. Now hand it off. Let the pilot land it. Claire shakes her head, eyes fixed on the console. Not yet. The test flag is still active. If I transfer now, the hold collapses. Reddick's voice cuts through, flat and decisive. Clear it. Keep procedure intact. Claire nods once. Her fingers isolate the rogue test code, pushing it into a sandbox. She begins drafting an alternate landing profile, aimed at the dry lake bed south of the range, a wide, flat expanse designed for emergencies. The countdown ticks relentlessly. 11:02, 10:30, 9:48. The room falls silent. On the main screen, the MQ-9 carves a controlled circle above the desert, its shadow sweeping wide across the sand. Claire settles deeper into the command chair, the console's glow painting steady resolve across her face. The MQ-9, capable of 300 miles an hour and surgical precision, has always commanded her respect. Today, it refuses to obey. A buried test flag and GPS interference tug it off course, as though an unseen hand is dragging it toward failure. Her fingers skim diagnostics' narrowing focus. "Hold true," she whispers to herself. The data confirms what she feared: backup navigation compromised. Unless she strips out the rogue code and restores a clean uplink, the Reaper will drift again, right into civilian airspace. For most, the task would be overwhelming. For Claire, it's not another test. It's a measure of trust, a crucible, proof that calm discipline matters more than reckless bravado. At the next station, Lieutenant Carter Doyle leans in, his voice sharp and cutting. "Whitfield, really, you'll stall it before a real pilot can take over." The words ripple through the room. A few quiet mutters rise. She's too slow. Why risk it on her? Colonel Reddick doesn't reply. His silence is its own judgment. He will watch, and procedure alone will decide if she fails or succeeds. Claire breathes once steady. On the feed, the Reaper banks, harder its trajectory, pressing towards civilian airspace. The console clock blinks 09:0 minutes to the impact corridor. From the rear monitors, Major Sarah Whitman folds her arms. Calm but firm, she calls across the noise. "Stay on the numbers. Don't let the noise in." Claire's hand brushes the silver compass at her collar. "Hold true." Her father's phrase. She remembers nights in their garage debugging stubborn lines of code at his side. Every problem has a pattern. Find it. Her fingers resume across the keys. She threads a narrow channel of clean data through the corrupted uplink, bypassing the interference. The voices, the murmurs, even the tension blur into static. Lieutenant Carter Doyle edges closer, his breath sharp with doubt. One slip, Whitfield and that drone comes down on a school. "You sure you want that on your record?" Claire ignores him. Her eyes stay locked on the feed where the desert rolls beneath the Reaper's wings. The faint glimmer of the town edges closer, too close for comfort. Another warning bursts across her console. "Override active." The drone resists her commands, fighting back. A flicker of doubt stirs in her chest. If she hands it off now, Doyle or another pilot will take over. She would be safe. Safe from blame. Safe from failure. But then her father's voice returns, calm and unshaken. "Truth matters, Claire, even when pressure tells you to yield." Her jaw hardens. She is not stepping away. Not from this flight. Not from her responsibility. Claire's fingers graze the compass again, its edges worn smooth by years of habit. In her mind, her father's voice echoes from those nights in the garage. Every problem has a solution. Find it. On the feed, the drone's live video flickers. At the horizon, faint specks of light mark the edge of the town. Too close. Her breath steadies, shoulders set. She will not run. Not from the machine. Not from the doubt in the room. Hold true. The alarms hammer the air, relentless pulses counting down toward disaster. 7 minutes remain. Telemetry scrolls across her console like a hostile language, red flags flashing. Doyle's unauthorized test flag still poisons the system, twisting the backup navigation. The Reaper is heavy, fast, stubborn, and right now dangerously out of control. Claire's hand hovers over the keyboard. For a split second, temptation gnaws at her. She could step back. Let Doyle or any backup pilot take the chair, wash her hands of blame. But that would mean surrendering to arrogance, letting recklessness define the outcome. Her jaw hardens. That is not an option. A firm hand grips her shoulder. Major Sarah Whitman leans close, her voice low and steady. "Don't let their impatience steer you off course. I've been here before. They'll always doubt you until you prove them wrong. The words strike like a spark in dry desert air. Whitman isn't a stranger to this trial. Years ago, she was the young officer branded too methodical, too slow, until the day she saved a training squadron from a failed fuel transfer. Claire knows the story. She knows the weight behind Whitman's words. Claire exhales slowly. On the monitor, the override marker flashes again. Nav, Sim, active. The outline of the town sharpens, fragile, exposed. Her father's voice echoes from memory patience. Every line of code has a weak point. She was 16 then, fumbling at an old terminal in their garage while he guided her hand. That night, he smiled with pride when she solved it. The console pulses red, system override active. Claire straightens, isolating the rogue flag into a controlled sandbox. Contained, dangerous still, but caged like a venomous snake in glass. The murmurs in the room quiet. Doyle's smirk blurs into the background. For the first time tonight, silence feels like support. 6 minutes remain. Claire presses forward, her typing surgical precise. Every keystroke is a step down a narrow corridor, one misstep, and the Reaper will break free again. It's a $20 million war machine built for 300 miles an hour and surgical strikes. But tonight, it feels like a traitor. And she's not only fighting the drone, she's fighting the whispers, the second-guessing, the weight of expectation pressing on her back. Doyle hovers too close, voice dripping with condescension. You're out of your depth, Whitfield. That drone's a killer, and you're not a pilot. The words sting, but Claire doesn't look up. At the back, Colonel Reddick watches with arms folded. His silence heavier than Doyle's taunts. All around the control room, screens project the Reaper's live feed, dozens of eyes fixed on her, waiting for brilliance or disaster. She shuts it all out. Focus narrows to the stream of data scrolling across her screen. The satellite uplink encryption is scrambled, layered with AES-grade complexity, a fortress of shifting gates. To stop the drone, she'll have to slip past it, rewrite the command set in real time, and regain control before it breaches civilian airspace. The margin for error is razor thin. 2,000 lives hang in the balance. Claire's pulse steadies. One wrong move could end more than her career. It could end everything. Claire's fingers tighten around the silver compass at her collar, its edges pressing into her skin. In her mind, she sees her father's steady hands guiding hers across an old garage terminal. Codes like a battlefield. He had set his tone calm but unyielding. Find the weak point and you win. The memory steadies her, but the screen spikes red. Weapons flag active. Her pulse jumps. The drone's corrupted code has misread its training payload as live ordnance, triggering a false arming sequence. Her heart lurches. If the system completes the launch cycle even with no missile loaded, the drone could tear itself apart, mid-air scattering debris across the desert. The trajectory puts that debris dangerously close to the town. Whitfield, you're losing it. Doyle snaps his voice, slicing through the wail of alarms. He leans close, venom sharp. Step aside before you turn this into a crater. Claire doesn't blink. Her father's voice echoes steady in her chest. Hold true. You're enough. Her fingers blur, isolating the back door in the satellite protocol. A narrow corridor opens, fragile, fleeting, but it's enough. She slams a bypass command through the gap. The console beeps sharp final. Weapons flag cleared. The room freezes. 2 seconds remained on the countdown before simulated detonation. Engineers glance at one another wide-eyed. Even Doyle is silent. Claire exhales, steadying her sweat-slicked hands on the console's edge. The Reaper banks slightly its path, still unstable, but the immediate catastrophe is gone. Beginner's luck, Doyle mutters at last, but his smirk falters weaker now. Colonel Reddick's face is unreadable, stern as ever, but for the first time his silence carries calculation. not condemnation. Claire blocks them out. Her eyes return to the code, the data streams, shifting like storm clouds. This fight isn't over. She digs deeper. The encryption is layered, deliberate, almost predatory, built not to fail, but to resist. And in its depths, she spots something chilling, a test routine, reactivated by Doyle's flag, amplified by a second interference stream. It looks less like corruption and more like guidance, as if an unseen hand is steering the drone astray. Her chest tightens. This isn't random. Someone set the conditions for failure. The console shrieks, AI override, strengthened, drone accelerating. On the main feed, the MQ-9 noses down, speed climbing 5 minutes from the town. The room thickens with tension, heavy as storm air before lightning. Monitors glow with the drone's shadow racing over the desert each second, dragging it closer to homes and schools. Claire moves fast, rerouting the satellite signal, carving a clean path around the corrupted channel. The drone wobbles, hesitates, then responds, half obedient, half defiant, like a beast resisting its reins. Reddick steps forward, his voice sharp as steel. Whitfield, you've got 4 minutes. Land it, or I pull you. Claire nods once unshaken. She has no illusions left Doyle's smirk. The skeptical stares, the weight of 2,000 lives pressing down. But so too is the silver compass at her collar, the words engraved on its back. Hold true. This fight is hers. The Reaper will obey, or it will break her. The alarms shriek louder, merciless and shrill. On the main feed, the desert blurs into streaks of light, the faint glow of the town shimmering on the horizon, like a fragile promise. Then a fresh alert slams across her console, sandstorm detected. Visibility critical. The live feed fractures into static. Ahead, a towering wall of dust roars across the desert winds, screaming at 40 miles an hour. The Reaper's sensors shudder, its autopilot logic faltering under the turbulence. Claire's mind races. A storm at this altitude is chaos incarnate. Crosswinds that can snap wings, visibility that blinds sensors, pressure drops that bend logic into failure. Her fingers fly across the keys. Altitude corrections. Wind, drift compensation. A 3-degree lateral offset. Numbers stream down the console like falling rain. She locks the new course. The Reaper steadies, slicing into the sandstorm like a blade cutting cloth. The control room exhales as one. For a single heartbeat, silence reigns. Then Doyle's voice cuts the air bitter, loud enough for everyone to hear. Lucky guess, Whitfield. You think you can fly a storm like that? Claire's jaw tightens. She doesn't rise to it. She's too deep in the code, too focused on the hidden rhythms beneath the chaos. Her father's voice returns calm and steady. See the pattern, not the noise. The storm, she realizes, is only another mask, and she is ready to strip it away. From the back, Major Sarah Whitman's eyes lock onto hers. She mouths 2 words across the room. You've got this. Then she slips her a fresh tablet, updated wind models, real-time sensor feeds data she will need if the storm pulls the Reaper sideways again. The nod is quiet, but it lands like a lifeline. Whitman has stood in this crucible before, doubted, dismissed, until her precision saved lives. Claire steadies her breath. On the screen, the Reaper claws through the last edge of the storm, its feed stabilizing. Relief flickers, then vanishes. The console screams a new warning: attack mode engaged. The Reaper's targeting system locks onto a mock structure in the test zone. On screen, the reticle centers with chilling focus. To the untrained eye, it looks like a schoolhouse. Fragile walls. Rows of windows, a place of safety. The countdown begins. 90 seconds until the system executes the command loop. Claire's pulse hammers, every beat echoing in her ears like a countdown. Her fingers blur across the keyboard, bypassing subroutines, digging for the buried trigger. Sweat beads on her forehead and trickles into her collar, but she doesn't wipe it away. Around her, the control room hums with low murmurs, a chorus of doubt rising like static. Doyle leans in, his voice venomous, sharp enough to cut through the noise. "You're gonna choke Whitfield. Step aside before you burn this whole exercise down." Her jaw hardens. The silver compass at her collar presses cool against her skin, a reminder etched in her father's hand. Hold true. Every problem has a weak point. Find it. Her fingers fly, isolating the attack loop, pinning it in memory, and slamming the bypass command. The console freezes the air in the room, holding its breath, then flashes, targeting disengaged. The room falls utterly silent. The drone holds steady. No release. No false strike. Claire exhales, shaky but steady. 2 seconds remained, but Reddick's voice slices through the quiet cold and clipped. "I want a full review of that code, Whitfield. No shortcuts." His distrust cuts deeper than Doyle's taunts, but Claire doesn't flinch. She nods once, her eyes still locked on the console. The fight isn't over. Not yet. Major Sarah Whitman slips her another tablet, this one filled with AI diagnostic logs. She leans close, her scar catching the glow of the monitors, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're faster than their doubts. Stay on it." A fleeting smile tugs at Claire's lips. For the first time tonight, she isn't entirely alone. At the edge of the room, Specialist Ben Turner, quiet until now, steps closer. His eyes are wide, almost disbelieving. "That was incredible, ma'am," he says, softly, voice trembling with awe. Claire gives the briefest nod acknowledgement without distraction. Gratitude can wait, because the Reaper isn't finished fighting. On the screen, the drone's shadow stretches across the desert floor, its trajectory cutting closer to the faint glow of the town. 3 minutes remain. The AI isn't retreating. Its code shifts like a living organism, rewriting itself, faster than her patches can hold. Claire leans in, tracing the patterns. Her father's voice threads through memory, late nights in the garage, debugging stubborn programs line by line. "You're smarter than the machine. Trust your eyes, not its noise." And then she sees it. Buried deep in the interference, faint but deliberate, a digital signature. The same anomaly she had uncovered years ago in her father's accident logs. A glitch no one else believed. Her chest tightens. This isn't chance. Someone wants the Reaper to fail. The console jolts violently. Navigation error. On screen, the MQ-9 veers, missing a mock target by inches. Doyle pounces, his voice loud and triumphant, cutting across the room like a gavel. "Told you she'd screw it up." Reddick's eyes narrow, his tone final and damning. "Sloppy work, Whitfield." Claire's stomach twists. She knows her code was clean. Her fingers fly over the console, scrolling line by line, searching. Then there it is. A single injection of code deliberately placed to sabotage her input. Her eyes lift, locking on Doyle's smirk. He doesn't deny it. He doesn't need to. From across the room, Major Whitman notices the silent exchange. Her jaw tightens, but she gives the smallest shake of her head. Not now. Claire presses a palm against her compass pendant. Hold true. Her breath steadies, resolve hardening. On the feed, the Reaper hurtles closer, the lights of the town glowing like fragile embers in the desert night. 2 minutes. She's weathered the sandstorm. She's neutralized a false arming. She's uncovered sabotage. But if she falters now, 2,000 lives will vanish in fire. Specialist Turner leans closer, his voice raw but steady belief shining in his eyes. "You're better than they think, ma'am. Keep going." The words land like steel in her chest. The AI is a twisting maze, hostile and relentless, but she's navigated worse. Her father taught her to find the fault lines to turn chaos into order. Her fingers dance across the key's determination radiating from every keystroke. Around her, Doyle sneers. Reddick's stare burns, and the memory of her father's final flight presses close. But so too do Whitman's faith, Turner's trust, and the compass pendant's cool weight against her skin. The Reaper is hers to tame, and she isn't finished fighting. Then Doyle steps forward, his sneer sharpened into a weapon meant to break her. She's unfit for this. "Sir," he declares, voice pitched to carry across every corner of the control room. "This is a job for a real pilot, not someone who hides behind code." The words hit like a hammer, heavy and deliberate, designed to crack her focus. For a moment, the console's glow blurs doubt, pressing in like storm clouds closing overhead. But then her father's voice cuts through steady and calm from memory. "When everything falls apart, Claire, you must stand firm." The console flashes encryption protocol updated. Access denied. The AI is evolving, hardening its defenses with each cycle. Every door she forces open slams shut again. Breaking through now will take precision beyond what most engineers twice her age could dream of. The clock blinks merciless in red. 0900 minutes left. Doyle leans closer, his voice dripping venom. "She's choking, sir. Pull her before she kills someone." The room buzzes, murmurs swelling into a low chorus of suspicion, doubt, impatience. Every whisper presses down like another weight on Claire's shoulders. Her pulse surges, but she steadies it with a single breath. Her fingers brush the silver compass pendant at her throat. Hold true. Across the room, Major Sarah Whitman slides her a tablet, fresh streams of real-time AI diagnostics glowing across the display. Her voice is low, sharp, and deliberate. "You're smarter than that machine, Whitfield. Don't let his noise drown you out." The words cut clean through the storm, anchoring her. Then, unexpectedly, another voice rises unpolished, raw but steady. Specialist Ben Turner, quiet, until now steps forward from the shadows of the console. "You got this, ma'am. I've seen what you can do." The room pauses, the rank and file glancing between Turner and Claire. For the first time tonight, belief trickles through the control room, not from rank or authority, but from the people who have been silently watching. On the main screen, the drone's feed sharpens. The faint lights of the town flicker at the horizon, fragile as candle flames. The countdown is merciless. Gornagor. Umayso minutes. Claire's hands blaze across the keyboard. The AI's encryption shifts like a ghost, each layer dissolving the moment she reaches for it. But her father's lessons echo in her mind. Every problem has a pattern. Find it. Break it. Then she sees it. A subtle flaw in the AI's update cycle, a flicker barely a heartbeat long, but just enough. Her hands fly, crafting a bypass with surgical speed. The feed jolts. Partial access restored. The Reaper wobbles in the sky, half obedient, half defiant. 7 minutes, Turner murmurs his voice like a timekeeper in the storm. But the AI counters surging back with code that twists like a striking snake, trying to lock her out again. Doyle seizes the moment, his voice, triumphant, booming across the room. "She's losing it, sir. We need a real pilot." Colonel Reddick's hand hovers over the override switch, his jaw set in stone. Claire's pulse spikes, but she doesn't flinch. Whitman's subtle nod steadies her. Turner's quiet faith roots her. And then in memory, her father's voice returns, calm and unwavering. "Stand firm." The console beeps. The drone edges closer, the town's lights glowing brighter, larger, impossible to ignore. Gabro minutes. Her fingers move with surgical precision, rewriting the drone's core loop line by line. For a fleeting moment, the Reaper dips altitude, sliding back under her control. But the AI lashes out its encryption, twisting again, harder, faster. The air in the control room tightens like a vice. Doyle smirks from the sidelines, feeding on doubt. Reddick's skepticism bears down like a physical weight. And yet Claire feels the compass cool against her skin. It's engraving a steady drumbeat of resolve. Hold true. This is no longer just a fight for control of a machine. It's a fight against sabotage, against arrogance, against the shadows of failures that were never hers to bear. The feed flashes across the monitors. 03 minutes to impact. The Reaper's shadow stretches long across the desert floor, sensors flickering its trajectory, cutting straight for the cluster of homes ahead. Colonel Reddick's voice thunders sharp as steel. Whitfield, land that drone now, or it's over. Doyle sneers his words meant to wound. She's done, sir. She's no match for that system. But Claire doesn't flinch. Her eyes stay locked on the code, her chest rising with steady breaths. Her father's words echo like a drumbeat. Hold true. Stand firm. Then she sees it. Buried deep inside the shifting encryption, a marker. The same trace she had uncovered years ago in her father's accident logs. Her breath catches. This isn't random. It isn't chance. It's deliberate. A digital fingerprint. A signature of sabotage. To a minute's to impact. The town's lights glow larger on the feed, fragile points of life, seconds from erasure. Claire steadies her breath. There's no room for outrage, no time for fear, no space for vengeance, only action. The console shrieks, missile arming sequence reinitiated. The Reaper's AI lashes out like a cornered predator, red warnings cascading across the screens. Its corrupted brain arms the payload again, desperate for release. Claire's pulse hammers, but her hands are steady. She dives into the labyrinth of code. Every 10 seconds, the AI reshuffles its encryption fortress walls, rebuilding themselves faster than any human could climb. Breaking it isn't just difficult. It's meant to be impossible. She whispers to herself, barely audible, hold true. And then a spark. Her father's memory floods back. Nights in their garage, his calm hand guiding hers over a stubborn terminal. You're smarter than the machine, Claire. Find its heart. That was the night she built her own algorithm. A private weapon born of trial error and sleepless persistence, crafted to bypass locked systems no manual could touch. Now it's her only chance. Her fingers blaze, keystrokes, sharp and relentless. The algorithm surges, slicing into the AI's defenses, prying open a gap where none should exist. The console screams, then stabilizes. Access granted. The drone jolts in the sky, navigation wrenched back under her control. Its engines roar in protest, whining against her override, but she forces the Reaper into descent. 01:30 minutes to impact. The feed zooms in the town's edge only 500 meters away. A school's silhouette flickers in the night. 010 minute left. Doyle's voice cuts like venom. She's crashing it. Sir, pull her now. Colonel Reddick's hand hovers over the override switch, his jaw set. But Whitman steps forward, her voice like a drawn blade. Trust her. Turner's voice follows raw with conviction. She's got it, sir. Let her finish. Claire's compass presses cool against her chest, grounding her. Her father's words thrum like a heartbeat. Hold true. Stand firm. Then she sees it. The AI's final weakness. A flaw in its update cycle. A narrow window, a fraction of a second, where she can seize full control. Her algorithm surges. The console flashes, navigation override complete. The Reaper dips its engines, throttling down. But the AI strikes back, one last defiant lash. Missile arming sequence engaged. Claire doesn't blink. Her fingers hammer one final command, a decisive strike into the machine's corrupted core. The console beeps, clear. Sharp absolute. Missile deactivated. Landing sequence initiated. On the feed, the drone tilts into descent arcs low over the desert, and scrapes onto the dry lake bed. It skids, throwing up a wall of dust, then lies still just 500 meters short of the town. The control room erupts. Engineers cheer. Turner grins wide. Whitman's nod is fierce and proud. Relief floods the air like oxygen after fire. Claire exhales, her hands slick with sweat. She leans back, the compass pendant warm against her skin. She's done it, saved 2,000 lives, tamed a $20 million war machine that defied the best minds. But the triumph fractures almost instantly. Colonel Reddick's voice slices through the celebration, cold and unyielding. "I want every line of that code reviewed, Whitfield. No mistakes." The cheers falter. The room shifts back to silence. Doyle smirks in the corner, malice gleaming in his eyes. Claire's stomach twists. She's grounded the Reaper, but their doubt lingers, a shadow as stubborn as the hack itself. Her gaze drifts back to the console. Lines of diagnostic logs still scroll silent witnesses. And then she sees it. The same hidden marker. The anomaly that once haunted her father's crash logs. Her breath catches sharp as a blade to the ribs. This wasn't coincidence. Someone wanted this drone to fail, just as someone once wanted her father blamed. Whitman catches Claire's shift, her eyes narrowing. She gives a subtle nod. "Keep going." Turner leans close, his voice low but certain. "You're a hero, ma'am. They'll say it." Claire's fingers brush the compass at her throat, its engraving pressing into her skin. Hold true. The drone is down. The town is safe. But the war isn't over. Somewhere in the code lies the truth about her father and about who still wants her to fail. Then Colonel Mason Reddick's voice cuts through the fragile celebration, cold as the desert night. "Good work, Whitfield. But I want every line of that code reviewed. We don't celebrate until it's verified." The applause dies instantly. Energy drains from the room. The cheers curdle into murmurs of protocol checklists, suspicion. Doyle lingers in the shadows of the consoles, his smirk sharper than any taunt. His silence says more than words. She's not done proving herself. Claire's victory feels fragile, as if it could vanish with the next keystroke. She clutches the compass, its edges pressing into her skin. The words echo in her memory, her father's voice steady and unwavering. Hold true. She saved lives tonight, but not her name. Not yet. Her eyes drift back to the console. Diagnostic logs still flicker across the screen, lines of raw data rolling like silent testimony. Her fingers scroll instinct, guiding her instinct forged from years of training, grief, and relentless searching. And then she freezes. There it is again. A hidden marker, a digital scar buried deep in the override. It isn't new. It matches the anomaly she found 3 years ago in her father's flight logs, the one no one believed, the one that damned him as pilot error. Her breath catches relief and rage colliding in her chest. For years she has carried his lessons, his loss, the compass he gave her, fighting to prove he was more. Now, in glowing lines of corrupted code, she sees the truth at last: sabotage. A system designed to fail him, buried under bureaucracy and indifference. Whitman notices her shift steps closer. Her voice is a whisper, sharp with intuition. What is it? Claire's eyes burn with clarity. Her voice is low, steady. It's my father. This hack, it connects to him. Turner overhears, his eyes widening, but he stays silent. His trust is unshaken. Claire tightens her grip on the compass, its edge digging into her palm. She sees the garage in her mind, her father's steady hands guiding hers over a stubborn program, his voice calm, unbreakable. You'll hold true, Claire, always. She has fulfilled that promise tonight, saved lives where her father could not. But Reddick's demand for audits, Doyle's lurking smirk, remind her the fight is far from over. The truth about her father is buried in these systems, and now she knows someone wanted him blamed just as someone wanted her broken tonight. The control room, once a crucible of alarms and triumph, hums with uneasy silence. The Reaper lies dead on the desert floor, only half a kilometer from the town, it nearly destroyed. Claire sits at the console, her hand still trembling from the fight. She has saved 2,000 lives, uncovered a thread, linking tonight's sabotage to her father's death, yet the victory tastes hollow, poisoned by doubt. And then a new storm breaks. Lieutenant Doyle steps forward, his smirk polished into false sincerity. "I need to come clean, sir," he says, his voice dripping contrition. "Whitfield's last test, the navigation error. I slipped in a line of code to throw her off. She was never going to cut it." The room freezes. Engineers glance at each other, stunned. Claire's blood runs cold. The reprimand that nearly ended her career, the glitch that scarred her record, it hadn't been a mistake. It had been Doyle's sabotage calculated to make her fail. Reddick's eyes narrow, but not at Doyle. His gaze pins Claire like a blade. "Whitfield, you knew about this and didn't report it." His voice is hard, every word a hammer. That's lack of transparency. "I may have to consider suspension." The words strike like a slap. The room tilts around her. Suspension would bury her career. Suspension would bury the truth. Suspension would lock her father's legacy in silence forever. Her mind churns, torn between calling out Doyle now or holding back for the sake of unit cohesion. Exposing him could fracture the team and brand her a troublemaker. Staying silent would let his lies stand and let the same system that dismissed her father's death as pilot error do the same to her. Her father's voice cuts through the noise, calm and unshakable from those nights in the garage. Truth matters, Claire, even when it's hard. Her fingers tighten around the compass at her neck. The engraving, "Hold true," is no longer just a phrase. It is a vow. Major Sarah Whitman steps forward, her scar catching the dim light. Sir Whitfield's code was flawless, she says, voice sharp as steel. It was Doyle's interference that caused the navigation fault. She saved that town despite his sabotage. Specialist Ben Turner, who has been quietly absorbing every second, adds his voice steady and certain. "I saw her logs, sir. She's the real deal. Doyle's the one who compromised the test." Their words slice through the silence like a lifeline. Eyes swivel toward Doyle. His smirk falters. Colonel Reddick's jaw tightened, skepticism cracking just slightly. "I'll need those logs, Whitman," he said, his voice lower now. The hard edge dulled but not gone. Claire's heart hammered. Her father's mantra whispered through the storm of doubt. Find the solution. Hold true. She unclasped her compass and laid it gently against the tablet, as if anchoring herself to his steady hands one last time. Doyle's so-called confession had triggered an inquiry, but Claire knew it was only the surface. The hidden marker buried in the drone's code, the same one she had uncovered in her father's crash logs, pointed to something larger, something deliberate, something organized. Her eyes locked with Whitman's across the room. No words, only a shared understanding. This fight stretched far beyond Doyle. Turner's trust, Whitman's faith, her father's legacy. These were her anchors in the storm. The Sage Mesa control room felt less like a test site now, and more like a battlefield of silence. The Reaper, once rogue and lethal, lay quiet on the desert floor. Yet the real threat still stalked inside the system itself. Reddick's voice broke the tension, cold and calculating. "Whitfield, your logs better explain this mess. If not, you're done." Doyle stood nearby, confidence creeping back into his smirk, as though convinced the system would shield him again. Claire stepped forward. Her voice was steady, her eyes unflinching. "Sir, the navigation error wasn't mine. It was deliberate sabotage Doyle's, and he wasn't acting alone." Gasps rippled through the room. Engineers exchanged stunned glances, the weight of her words cracking the atmosphere. She raised the tablet. Lines of code streamed across the monitors, each one traced and marked. This signature, she continued, her voice sharp as steel, matches the override we fought tonight. And it matches the anomaly in my father's last flight logs. This is no glitch. It's sabotage, part of a pattern that's been buried for years. The room froze, every pair of eyes locked on the glowing screens. Reddick's jaw set hard. From the sidelines, Whitman nodded firmly, her scar catching the light like a badge of battle. Turner added, his voice steady and unwavering. "I've cross-checked the logs, sir. She's right." Doyle's smirk collapsed. His eyes darted toward the exit, searching for escape that wasn't there. Reddick studied the data for a long, heavy moment, the silence stretching. Finally, his gravel, low voice carried across the room. "Whitfield, I was wrong. You're cleared. Doyle, you're under formal review." A collective exhale swept the control room, the tide turning in an instant. Relief, vindication, and shock rippled through the ranks. Then Reddick added, his tone still heavy but resolute. "Whitfield, you're not just cleared. You're promoted. Lead Instructor Electronic Warfare, starting immediately. We need you on this program." For the first time that night, Claire allowed herself a breath of triumph. Not for the rank, not for the recognition, but because the fight for truth, the one her father began, was no longer hers to carry alone. The weight lifts, but Claire Whitfield's journey is far from finished. She unclenches her fist and pulls the silver compass from her collar, its worn engraving catching the first pale glow of dawn. "Hold true." Her voice carries steady across the silent control room. "My father, Captain Daniel Whitfield, taught me to hold true when everything else was falling apart," she says, the compass trembling slightly in her hands. "He told me, when the world questions you, answer with courage." Tonight wasn't just about saving a town. It was about proving that integrity still matters. The room stills. Soldiers, officers, engineers, cadets listen with raw eyes. Major Whitman's nod is fierce. Specialist Turner's pride is quiet, but radiant. Even Colonel Reddick, rigid and uncompromising, lowers his gaze for a moment. Claire raises the compass high enough for the entire room to see. "This isn't just for me," she continues, her voice resonant, carrying weight beyond the walls. "This is for every operator who's been doubted, every soldier told they're not enough. My father's truth was buried. Mine nearly was too. But tonight we held true." Applause swells, not polite, not forced, but genuine. It reverberates through Sage Mesa like thunder rolling off the desert cliffs. Later, as the unit disperses, Claire lingers at the console. The Reaper lies still against the sand, no longer a predator, but a silent shadow. The base hums with new orders and missions, but her eyes are fixed on the horizon. She brushes her thumb across the compass one last time. The desert stretches endlessly before her, vast and unyielding. But she feels steady, resolute. Her father's words echo in her mind. Hold true. Claire steps forward into that horizon, not just as a drone pilot, not just as a soldier, but as a beacon. A reminder that truth, once uncovered, demands to be carried forward. Claire Whitfield's journey is more than a military thriller. It is a mirror reflecting something universal, the struggle between doubt and conviction, between betrayal and integrity, between fear and the courage to stand firm. Stories like this remind us that heroism is not only about defeating machines or surviving battles. It is about carrying a legacy, choosing honesty when the cost is high, and inspiring others to rise. If this story spoke to you, if Claire's resolve and her father's compass meant something in your own life, don't let it end here. Like this video, to help it reach more people. Share it with someone who needs a reminder to hold true under pressure. Comment below. What would holding true mean in your life? And don't forget to subscribe to her heroic stories so you never miss the next journey of resilience, courage, and truth. Because sometimes, a story isn't just told, it's carried forward.